Hi everyone, good morning. It's Margaret Manning here and welcome to 60 and Me. Hope you're having a great morning today, and I'm having my morning cup of tea. I've got my green tea this morning, one of my classic standbys. I hope you got a cup of coffee or tea and are going to sit down with me this morning and talk about something that, well, basically I need your help. I need your help with something, and normally I have notes that I kind of read from while I'm doing this little conversation, and it helps me to sort of guide the discussion along. But today I just wanted to chat about something that has been on my mind for a few days, and I just wanted to get your feedback. And I feel like we're a big enough community here at 60 and Me that we can make a difference. We can make some suggestions, and we can together put a voice together that is quite unique. I don't know of any other communities of our size and our depth and of our focus. You know, we are women over 60, 50, 60, 70, and we're all over the world, and we have lived 6 decades. We have tremendous experience and insight, and I think we get taken a little bit for granted sometimes that we don't really have a lot to contribute to the conversation about one very important thing. Now, this all started a couple of days ago when I was reading a post in LinkedIn by a great friend of ours, John Tarnoff. He's a coach and an author, written a book about the boomer reinvention movement, and he's just a very engaged individual. He published an article on LinkedIn about a woman who wrote a story of her experience with ageism in Australia, how she'd gone to apply for a job and had been turned down. And so he published this article and then made some comments about it, in how it's pervasive and it's all over the world. And I just, for some reason at that point, I just said enough, enough talking about it. What can we do about this? Now, there's been a lot of books written on this subject, lots and lots of articles. People have got all these great ideas and written about how unfair it is, how women over 50 have an impossible time finding work. And and I just thought, there's got to be something that we can do. There just has to be something that can be actionable. Now, we all know that in most parts of the world there are laws and legislation saying that you cannot, as an employer, discriminate against a person based on their age. It's the law. But the problem is that the law does not get implemented, and that these local and national laws are just ignored, and companies just come up with reasons and excuses and a way of getting through that loophole. And of course, the HR departments in these large corporations are there to protect the corporation. And so they have, a very formidable infrastructure to actually make it more difficult than it needs to be for older women and men to get into the workplace. Now, the reality is that we're all living longer these days. We're going to be living in, till our 90s, 80s, 90s if we stay healthy and well. And the retirement age in many countries around the world is being pushed up. It's going to be 67 now, I think, in the UK, 65 in the US. It's a moving target, because people in government are realizing that they can't afford to pay pensions to the booming boomers, to the number of people who are coming into the living longer and needing to work. So it's kind of an irony to me that the retirement age is being pushed to 67 and beyond. But after 50, it's impossible to find work. So there seems to be this opportunity to have a conversation about what's supposed to happen in those 20 years before you're supposed to technically not be discriminated against, that you should be able to work till you're 67, but yet the reality is at 50, you're either on a pension, Social Security, or your savings. So anyway, so back to the article by John. John started this conversation. It's a beautiful conversation, and I joined in to say that this discrimination around age doesn't just apply to work, and it's really, in my opinion, time that we started thinking about ways to activate the power of our boomer generation. Now, there are several people who are doing a lot to raise awareness Ashton Applewhite is a woman who I'm going to be interviewing shortly. She's an amazing author. I wrote a book called This Chair Rocks, and she's written about this dilemma, this exact situation. There's a gentleman in England, in the UK, called Jonathan Colley, who has a group called, now I always forget the exact name of it, it's the Unretirement Group. I should read this, I'll get the exact name for you, but he has a group in the UK that is working with large corporations to try to create kind of an on-ramp, and also to break down the whole conversation about age. You know, that the more you actually, he believes that the more you actually create special programs for seniors, and special senior deals, you actually do perpetuate the stereotype. You know, so people should just be judged and assessed on their ability. And, you know, the fact that women and men over 60 have had a tremendous amount of experience in the workplace, you know, it does put us in a good position. So he's working with companies to kind of create these intergenerational communities, and believes that conversation, you know, where people work side by side regardless of age, is actually the way to go forward. And they've got some really cool projects going on. So in this article we talked about, you know, or in this conversation to the article, we talked about the work that Jonathan's doing, and the work that John Tarnoff is doing, and others, Ashton Applewhite, Ken Dykewald. There's a whole group of people who are just, you know, they've got the megaphone out there. They're talking about it loud, but there seems to be this need now to do something. So what do we do? What can we do? And so I'm just kind of brainstorming here, and I would love to know what your ideas are. Now, from my perspective, and Jonathan actually agrees with this, is that the more people see older women, I'm going to say keep it there because we're 60 and me, the older women are out there in the world doing things, you know, being vibrant, getting out, traveling, starting new businesses, getting involved in entrepreneur opportunities, like getting engaged in the community. And more people see older women doing things that kind of communicate the message, these women are different. These are not the women that you knew, you know, in the last generation. What we mean by 60 now is not what it used to be. So that's, I think, a very, very powerful thing that we can do as a 60 and me community, as women in this community. We can just get out there into the world and get engaged. You know, just do things that show people we are, you know, a different type of person, that we're more dynamic, we're learning all the time, we're trying to take on new responsibilities, we're capable, we're wise, we have this wisdom, and not to be giving up, you know, to say, oh, well, I never would get that job, or they probably wouldn't talk to me, to actually go and try. And the second thing, I think, is to have a conversation. When someone says something, you know, like, when someone says something that raises a stereotype, that is, you know, even something simple like, you don't really look your age. This happens, you know, a lot to our women. I know this comments come up. People will say to you, oh my gosh, you don't look like you're 65. And then just to say back to them, well, thank you for that compliment, but you know, this is what 65 looks like these days. This is what we do. And maybe give an example. You know, for example, you know, I know a woman in her late 60s who's just started this great business. You should check out her website, you know, and actually have a reassuring conversation. So don't just say, oh, thank you, and let it go at that. Say, yeah, and that's what we do now in our 60s. We're healthy, we're doing stuff, we're helping younger people. We've got grandkids that we're talking to in a whole new way. So that's the second thing, is to just not so much challenge people, but just raise it. You know, if someone says something that's stereotypical of ageism or discrimination according to age, challenge it, go back and push back, and try to change their minds as well. So I think that's another thing that I can think of. And the third thing is this thing about technology. Technology is, people say, oh, my grandson is so good at the technology, I'm not very good at it. Well, honestly, I know some people just don't like Facebook, don't like technology, but it's the way to go. It's the way to show the world that we need to be treated equally and fairly. And the more that we deny, the more that we show we're not interested in those things, the more excuses in the workplace they've got to say, you obviously couldn't do this job because you have to have a very good level of experience with Excel or PowerPoint, or you need to be competent with social media channels. You need to know how to post a video on YouTube, or whatever the requirement of that job is. Just make sure that you can do everything that the younger candidate who's competing for your job can do. So I think those are just three ideas that I think are useful to consider. But I would love to get your feedback. I'd love to know how you think we can deal and address and challenge the ageism that is happening in the workplace. What do you think? I know, because we've had articles on this, that there are many women who have applied for jobs and been turned down because, well, they thought it was because they were too old, but the employer came up with some reason that justified their decision, or maybe didn't even speak to you. So I think that it would be really interesting to just put our heads together as a community and think about how we can do something at a community level to, for example, challenge the laws. If there's a law that says you cannot be discriminated on by age, then find someone that can help push that and challenge it. It's interesting, the HR departments in these corporations, I think, are a really good place to start, because they're the kind of filter of applicants for jobs, and they have a script. I don't, not that I know this, I've never been in an HR role, but I know that they do not talk very much about ageism and discrimination, and it's not something that they're really there to be your champion. So I think that that's another interesting angle to work with HR groups. And I know that Jonathan, for example, is doing a lot of work in that area to sort of just harness the power of the boomer generation with the savvy and smarts and the innovation of the younger generation. We should work together. There's just work to be done. There's things to be created and invented and discovered. And we can do this together. And we need the money. Between 50 and 67 or whenever it is we're supposed to retire and may not want to, we have to find a way to eat and pay our mortgage and travel and have fun and buy jewelry. So anyway, I hope this has been an interesting conversation. Maybe it's been a bit random, a little scatty, because I've not been following a script or my notes. I've just been talking to you because I believe in you. I believe in the intelligence and the power and the ability of women over 60. And if you don't want to work after 60, that's totally fine. If you've managed to be sensible and save money and you've got a great retirement plan, perfect. Just go for it, enjoy it. And that's good for you that you've done that, that you've prepared. But if you're in that big bucket of women who did not prepare, did not save, and want to work in their 60s and 70s and beyond, then let's see if we can figure out some suggestions. Maybe put together some ideas that we can, that we can put in an article and then share around. So I think it'd be fun and very interesting to do. So I guess that's our chat today on ageism. And I think that my question really for you is, what ideas have you got for raising the awareness about ageism with older women that's facing older women? And what ideas have you got for challenging that and making a change? Okay, well, leave your comments below. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and let's just think outside the box, and I'll join in the dialogue as well, and we'll follow through on this in a later conversation. But thanks for being here. Thank you for your passion and energy, and let's work on this together. Take very good care, everybody. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.